Aarika Sharma had always believed her life would pass quietly, the way a gentle river glides around stones and disappears into the distance without stirring much attention. She wasn't someone who chased adventures. She wasn't someone who needed noise to feel alive. She found her peace in small things: morning tea with ginger and cardamom, the laughter of her students, the sound of chalk tapping against a board. Everything she loved existed in soft moments. Ordinary moments. That's precisely what she expected from Flight 782, 2 uneventful hours in the sky, a warm cup of airline coffee, and the comforting hum of engines beneath her feet. That morning she reached the airport early, luggage rolling quietly behind her, the sunlight catching the edge of her hair like a shy sparkle. She moved with an unhurried grace, the type of person who didn't rush unless absolutely necessary. Her seat was 1/7 a window, just the way she liked it. She loved watching the earth shrink until cities looked like dot patterns stitched on a dark green quilt. She loved the moment the plane pierced through the cloud line, revealing a sky so blue it looked endless. Flying had always been beautiful to her, just not something she ever imagined controlling again. Settling into her seat, Aarika placed her backpack under the seat ahead, took out her half-read novel, and smiled at the irony that she read the same page every flight but never moved forward. She wasn't sure if she liked the story or just liked the familiarity of it. The cabin around her buzzed softly, families chatting, business travelers typing furiously, an elderly couple debating whether they had locked their front door. Life in its simple, chaotic form. The flight attendants moved through the aisle, checking seatbelts, offering polite smiles polished to perfection. When one of them paused near her, Aarika returned the smile, warm but reserved. She had a way of making strangers feel comfortable around her without ever demanding attention. She didn't know anyone on board, nor did she plan to talk to anyone. She preferred flying like a quiet observer, blending into the background. The world on the ground was loud enough. Up here, she liked silence. A few rows ahead, a little girl pressed her hands against the window, whispering in awe whenever the plane shifted angle. To Aarika, that innocence was refreshing. It reminded her of her students' children who believed a sky filled with clouds was just another playground waiting to be explored. As the captain announced takeoff, Aarika leaned back, closed her eyes, and allowed the gentle acceleration to lift her into a world above the world. The plane tilted, climbed, and broke through a layer of fluffy mist. Sunlight spilled across her seat, warm and soft, pushing away whatever faint anxiety she always carried when leaving home. When the fasten seatbelt sign switched off, passengers began settling into their mid-flight habits: movies, conversations, naps. Aarika returned to her book, though she barely read 4 lines before getting distracted by the sky outside. The clouds looked like mountains sculpted by time, staggering and vast. Their beauty pulled her thoughts deeper, to a place she didn't visit often, because once another lifetime ago she had loved flying more than anything. Before she became a teacher, Aarika had trained as a glider pilot. She had spent countless hours in the sky, mastering the art of steering a machine that depended not on engines but on the invisible hands of the wind. It was freedom in its rawest, purest form. She had dreamed of becoming a commercial pilot, soaring above continents, living her life among the clouds. But dreams are fragile things. A tragedy, one she rarely spoke about, had shattered her path completely. Her father, the person who had taught her to love the sky, had died during a flight demonstration accident. That day, the cockpit controls had become symbols of pain, not passion. She abandoned flying. She gave away her gear. She stopped visiting the airfield. And she told herself she would never set foot in a cockpit again. Teaching had saved her. Children had saved her. With them, She rediscovered purpose on the ground, not in the air. But dreams never die quietly. They stay hidden, curled in the corners of the heart, waiting for the right moment to wake. As she gazed out the window now, Aarika felt a tiny flicker of that old passion, soft, subtle, almost unnoticeable. She brushed it away with a shake of her head. Today was not special. Today was a normal day. A simple flight. A simple journey. She was just a passenger. Just a schoolteacher. Just one person among 300. Nothing extraordinary would happen. Or so she believed. She had no idea that the sky, always unpredictable, had chosen this ordinary day to turn her world upside down and to ask her for something she thought she had buried forever. The first sign that something was wrong came as a whisper so soft that most passengers didn't even notice. A faint tremor rippled through the cabin, like the plane had flown through a pocket of unsettled air. Aarika felt it, but she didn't think much of it. Planes shook all the time. Air pockets were normal. She turned a page of her book, her eyes following the lines of text. Even though her mind had drifted elsewhere, the second sign was louder. A deep, unsettling growl vibrated through the floorboards, followed by a jarring lurch that sent a few unattended cups sliding across trays. Someone gasped. A flight attendant paused mid-step, one hand gripping a seat back to steady herself. The lights flickered, not much, just enough for every heart in the cabin to skip a beat. Aarika's stomach tightened. Probably turbulence, whispered the man sitting beside her, trying to convince himself more than anyone else. But Aarika knew the sky well. Too well. This wasn't turbulence. Turbulence didn't come with a sudden drop in the humming rhythm of the engines. Sudden silence swept through the aircraft, a silence so sharp it felt like the air itself held its breath. The usual comforting roar of the twin engines faltered, dipped, and then faded into a hollow nothing. The plane was still moving, still slicing through the sky, but its voice was gone. A scream broke out somewhere behind her as the cabin jerked violently to one side. Oxygen masks tumbled down from the compartments like a forest of pale vines, swaying wildly as passengers reached for them with trembling hands. A mother clutched her baby and cried out for help. A businessman cursed under his breath. The elderly couple held each other tightly. Panic spread. Fast, too fast. Aarika's pulse pounded in her ears. But unlike most around her, her fear didn't come from confusion. It came from recognition. She had learned about this scenario during her gliding years. Total engine failure. Dual loss. A pilot's worst nightmare. But this wasn't a tiny glider with 2 seats and a simple structure. This was a massive commercial aircraft carrying hundreds of souls with nowhere to go except down. The cabin lights flickered again. Alarms wailed from behind the cockpit door, sharp and unrelenting warning tones designed to be unmistakable, even through chaos. And then came the captain's voice. Ladies and gentlemen. A pause. A small shaky breath. Both engines have failed. Passengers erupted. Panic shattered across the cabin like glass. The plane tilted downward, losing altitude faster than it should have. Overhead bins rattled. Loose objects slid. A cup rolled down the aisle, hitting a seat leg with a hollow clink that somehow sounded like doom. Aarika grabbed her mask, securing it quickly, but her eyes were locked on the open cockpit door. She could see just enough to know something was horribly wrong. One pilot slumped sideways, his headset dangling, blood trickling from his forehead. The other, Captain Rana, struggled to keep the aircraft steady, his left arm immobilized, his right hand gripping the yoke so tightly his knuckles turned white. Asterisk, the plane dipped again, more aggressively this time. A child screamed. Someone fainted. The attendants tried to calm everyone, but fear had spread like wildfire. Asterisk, Aarika felt a force pulling her forward, a gravitational drag from the nose-down angle. She had felt that sensation before in smaller aircraft. It was the beginning of a descent. A dangerous one. Asterisk, for one brief second, her childhood dream collided with her adult terror. The sky she loved was now a threat. The thing she once ran toward was now the same thing dragging her toward fate. Asterisk, her lungs tightened as she looked outside. Clouds rushed upward instead of downward. Buildings and land far below grew bigger at an alarming speed. Asterisk, she couldn't stop staring at the cockpit door. Asterisk, the alarm lights inside flashed red. The injured co-pilot didn't move. Captain Rana fought desperately, but his motions were uneven, painful. His right arm trembled with every pull on the yoke. Aarika could see the sweat pouring down his temple even from where she sat. Asterisk, and then, through the chaos, their eyes met. Just for a moment. His expression held fear, exhaustion, and something else she almost missed. A silent plea. Help. Asterisk. Aarika felt something awaken inside her, something she thought she had buried beneath years of quiet living. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. The sky doesn't wait for you, Aarika. It tests you when it chooses. And when it does, you rise. She didn't want this. She hadn't asked for this. Asterisk, she was done with flying. Done with danger. Done with the sky. But destiny has a way of ignoring what a person wants. Another violent jolt threw passengers sideways. Luggage burst from an overhead bin. A glass bottle shattered. Screams reached a fever pitch. Asterisk, Aarika's heart hammered painfully. She knew in the deepest part of her that the pilot couldn't do this alone. Someone had to help. But who? Asterisk, a flight attendant? Asterisk, another passenger? Asterisk, someone with training? Asterisk, her hands trembled. Her breath caught. She knew the truth. There was someone with training. Her and the sky had just called her name again. Aarika hadn't stood in a cockpit for years. Not since the accident that took her father and shattered the future she thought belonged to her. But now, with the plane dropping altitude like a wounded bird, the cries of terrified passengers rising behind her, and the captain fighting for control with one usable arm, she felt the weight of an impossible choice pressing against her chest. Asterisk. Her seatbelt was still fastened, her book still open to the same half-read page, her life still quiet. Simple, predictable, but none of that mattered now. Another brutal jolt shook the cabin, knocking a man into the aisle and sending a rain of plastic cups tumbling. The child who had earlier pressed her hands against the window was now clinging to her mother, sobbing hysterically. The oxygen masks swung violently above their heads like pale pendulums of fear. Asterisk. Aarika couldn't sit any longer. Asterisk, her body moved before her mind could catch up. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, grabbing the backs of seats to steady herself as the plane rocked side to side. Passengers shouted at her. Asterisk, sit down. Asterisk, it's dangerous. Asterisk, what are you doing? Asterisk, but their words felt distant, drowned out by the pounding of her heart. The alarms wailing ahead and the voice that rose inside her, steady and unstoppable. You can help. She stumbled forward, her feet fighting against gravity. The aisle tilted as the plane descended. It felt like walking uphill on a collapsing bridge. A flight attendant, pale with fear, reached out to stop her. Asterisk. Ma'am, please. Return to your seat. Asterisk. My father was a pilot, Aarika said, her voice trembling but firm. And I was trained to fly gliders. The captain needs help. The attendant froze, eyes widening. Aarika didn't wait for permission. She pushed forward, gripping seatbacks, dodging falling luggage, forcing herself toward the open cockpit where the alarm screamed like electric thunder. Asterisk when she reached the doorway. The scene inside stole her breath. Asterisk the co-pilot first officer Deshmukh was unconscious, slumped sideways, blood streaking across his temple. His seatbelt strained against his limp body. His breathing was shallow, his face pale. Asterisk Captain Rana was injured too. His left arm hung motionless, swelling and bruised. His right hand struggled to grip the yoke. His whole body shook with effort. Every few seconds he winced as pain stabbed through him. Asterisk he didn't see her at first. He was too focused on the impossible task of trying to control a 200-ton machine without engines, without support, and with only one working arm. Asterisk. Captain. Aarika shouted over the alarms. He jerked his head in her direction, eyes bloodshot, breath ragged. "You sit down," he yelled. "It's not safe here." Asterisk. "You're injured," Aarika said. "Let me help." Asterisk. "I don't need." Another jolt cut off his words. The plane tilted sharply to the left. He nearly lost his grip. A sickening drop followed as the aircraft lost another chunk of altitude. Asterisk. Aarika grabbed the empty co-pilot's seat to keep from falling. For a moment, she locked eyes with the unconscious first officer, and her heart tightened with empathy. "They were running out of time. Asterisk, Captain," she said, softer this time but with unshakable determination. "You cannot fly this alone." Asterisk. He hesitated. His breathing hitched. His gaze flicked from her face to her trembling hands. For a heartbeat, he saw something in her knowledge, maybe. Focus. A quiet strength she didn't know she still had. Asterisk. What experience? He demanded. Asterisk gliders, she said. 9 years of training. Before I stopped. Asterisk. Gliders? His brows pinched together. "This is a commercial jetliner." Asterisk. "I know," she replied, "but right now it has no engines. That makes this aircraft like it or not a very, very large glider." Silence. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Asterisk. Then the plane dropped again, faster this time. The ground outside rushed upward like a dark, unforgiving tide. Asterisk Captain Rana's jaw clenched. He looked at the dead instruments, the failing screens, the injured co-pilot, the chaos outside the cockpit door, and finally, back at her. Asterisk. "Strap in," he whispered. Not a command. A surrender. Asterisk Aarika slid into the co-pilot seat. Her palms were slick with sweat. Her breath trembled. She pulled the harness over her shoulders, clicked it into place, and felt the weight of reality settle over her like armor. Asterisk. She was in the cockpit. Again. Asterisk. The place she'd sworn she would never return to. Asterisk. The place that had once held her dreams and her deepest pain. Asterisk. Her fingers brushed the controls, foreign yet familiar. Her heart pounded so loudly she felt it in her throat. Asterisk. "You remember your basics?" the captain asked, voice hoarse. Asterisk. She nodded. Attitude, glide ratio, airspeed. Asterisk. Good. He gritted his teeth as he fought the yoke. "Then help me keep her steady. We need to stretch this glide as far as we can." Aarika took a deep breath and wrapped her hands around the controls. For a moment, the world shrank to the sound of the wind screaming past the cockpit, windows and the weight of the plane trembling beneath her. Touch, fear flooded her, memories haunted her. Asterisk. Doubt clawed at her. Asterisk. But beneath all of that, something stronger rose. Purpose. "Okay," she whispered. Asterisk. "Let's fly." The cockpit felt impossibly small, as if the walls were pushing in with every passing second. Aarika's fingers tightened around the controls, her palms slick with sweat. her heartbeat pounding like a drum inside her ribs. The aircraft groaned beneath them, an exhausted giant struggling to stay aloft. Every warning light flashed red. Every alarm screamed for attention. And every second she spent inside that cockpit felt like she was stepping deeper into the past she had fled from. Captain Rana breathed heavily beside her, his face pale but determined. He fought through pain to coordinate their every move. His injured arm trembled uselessly in his lap, but the courage in his eyes didn't waver. You're doing great, he told her, voice strained. Just keep her steady. We need to maintain the glide. Aarika nodded, exhaling slowly. Her father's lessons whispered through her memory. If the wind pushes, you push back. If fear whispers, fly louder. Her father had believed in her. Captain Rana believed in her now. And behind them, 300 people whose faces she might never know were depending on her. The plane continued descending, but the angle had stabilized. Instead of plummeting, they were gliding barely, but gliding nonetheless. Through the cockpit window, the world stretched like a patchwork quilt of fields, dirt roads, and shimmering horizon. A thin strip of flat land appeared in the distance, faint and dusty, like a promise the earth had forgotten about. There, Aarika whispered. Is that an old airstrip? The captain squinted, nodding. It's abandoned, but it's long enough. If we can reach it. If, she repeated. The heaviest word she had ever spoken. The aircraft sank lower. Clouds thinned. Patches of ground rushed closer. Every instinct in her body told her to panic, to freeze, to surrender. But something inside her pushed back, something she hadn't felt in so long that it felt new again. This is just like the simulations, she told herself. Except bigger. Much, much bigger. Captain Rana managed a pained smile. Just land it like a glider. Aarika swallowed hard. No pressure. The altitude meter ticked downward relentlessly. 7,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 4,000. The runway, if it could still be called, that grew clearer. Cracked asphalt. Grass creeping through the edges. Rusty fencing half buried by time. It wasn't built for a plane this size. It wasn't built for landing at all anymore, but it was their only chance. The passengers behind her were mostly silent now, shock and fear stealing their voices. A flight attendant's trembling update crackled through the overhead speakers, confirming what everyone already knew. Please brace for impact. The words stabbed the air like cold needles. Aarika held the controls firmly. Captain, give me your right hand. He hesitated. I can't. Just steady me, she said softly. That's all. He placed his shaking hand over hers, guiding her through the descent. Together they aligned the aircraft with the broken runway. The nose dipped. The tail trembled. The plane shuddered violently as turbulence fought them. Hold it. Hold it, the captain whispered. At 1,000 feet. The earth rushed toward them like a rising wave. At 500 feet. Aarika's breath shook. At 100 feet. She could see cracks in the asphalt. And then the wheels struck the ground with a brutal force that rattled every bolt in the aircraft. Aarika bit down a cry as the yoke jerked violently in her hands. The plane bounced once, twice angling dangerously as sparks burst from beneath the wings. Keep her straight. Captain Rana shouted. I'm trying. Aarika pulled with everything she had, muscles straining, tears blurring her vision. The plane skidded sideways, dragging across the ruined ground. Dirt and debris blasted upward like a storm around them. Something exploded near the left landing gear. A sharp pop echoed through the cabin, but the plane slid and slid and slid Until, finally, after what felt like a lifetime, it slowed. And stopped. Silence. A giant, trembling silence swallowed the cabin. Aarika's hands fell from the controls. Her whole body shook uncontrollably. Captain Rena exhaled a breath that was half sob, half laugh. You did it, he whispered. My God, you did it. Aarika didn't reply. She couldn't. Her chest felt tight. Her throat burning with emotion she had never allowed herself to feel before. Relief, grief, pride, fear. Everything tangled together. The first sound that broke the silence was a child crying. Then someone sobbed. Then someone else whispered a prayer. And then a wave of applause erupted behind her. Raw, shaky, desperate relief filled the air. People cried, clapped, hugged strangers. Flight attendants held each other. A mother kissed her baby's head again and again. Aarika unbuckled herself slowly. She felt weightless, not because she was free, but because everything inside her had finally confronted what she had been running from. When she stepped out of the cockpit, passengers reached for her hands, her shoulders, her sleeve. Some thanked her through tears. Others couldn't speak at all. To the world. She would soon become a headline. Passenger saves 300 lives after engine failure. But as she stepped onto the cracked runway, breathing in the dusty air, Aarika whispered something only the wind could hear. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just wanted everyone to go home. And for the first time since her father's accident, she looked up at the sky. And didn't feel fear. She felt peace.